But before we get to all the playoff basketball today, we have to begin on a not so great note, on a quite tragic note, actually. Damian Lillard has torn his Achilles tendon.
Damn.
Several days after coming back from a pretty miraculous recovery from a blood clot in which he returned in about a month from a blood clot that he had in his in his calf. It seemed like it was going well. You know, we were on top of the world thinking, wow, this recovery is amazing. Good for him. We'll see if they can make something happen. We didn't really expect the Bucks to be able to win the series with or without him, that they're, overmatched talent-wise. But almost all of that having to do with the Bucks season is completely fucking irrelevant. This is just devastating for Damian Lillard, the player, a 35-year-old point guard who is already a small guy, and we've seen him, what he looks like dealing with injuries when he's not 100%. There's been some issues. The most devastating injury you could possibly imagine for a guy at this point of his career, or any point of your career, really.
Yeah. Man, as soon as he felt that pop in his Achilles tendon and just like sat down, and it was just literally him alone, arms crossed, waiting for the coaching staff to come get him, and Kyle Kuzma, I guess, as well, was so depressing. And it felt like he knew that it was just like completely over. And that just gave me like little to no hope that this injury was going to be or wasn't what it was. I was terrified.
Yeah, it looked really bad right away. And then as soon as the game ended, before it even ended, we got a report from Chris Haynes that, Chris Haynes is famously very plugged in with Damian Lillard. Yeah. They have a clear relationship through the media. Before the game was even over, they were like, they're fearing for the worst. About an hour after the game was over, the worst was confirmed. Well, Don, what's your first thought here?
I mean, it's just awful. Obviously, you never want to see anybody get hurt, especially with an injury like this. It sucks because of all this stuff that you said, because he was fighting back to get back onto the floor. And whenever it got announced that he was coming back, just on the blood clot, we were like, hey, like, shout out to you for doing that. It also sounds crazy because all the doctors were like, I've never seen this before in my life. This is just unprecedented. I've never seen anybody be able to, overcome the blood clot like that. And so to have the basketball element of it where the Pacers are just better than you guys. So you're out here fighting for your life and then you're also just losing. And then the whole Milwaukee experiment, like Damon Milwaukee experiment, it's over. It's been a disappointment and it's been bad. And so a lot of the conversation coming out of it has now turned very much into the future where it's like, okay, well, what does this mean for the Bucks' future? What does it mean for Giannis' future? That all happens, and it sucks because this injury just spearheads a lot of it, and it's the jumping off point for what is very clearly the next era for the Bucks' future and for Dame's future. The only good thing is that he's in the middle of his contract, and it's not like a Kyrie Irving situation where he's going into a contract year and then gets hurt. He still has a couple years on his contract, so the money's on the way.
That's great news for Lillard.
Like that's the only silver lining because everything else is just really, really devastating.
Yeah, listen, 2027, he's making $62 million. Either way, it fucking goes.
Ooh, yeah. He's gonna be 38 years old
making money. And I've seen people call on Twitter like, "What do you do if in this scenario, as Damian Lillard, you're at an age of inflection for a player of your size and your age that like you were already assuming this timeline for the Bucks had a couple years left because the Damian Lillard Father Time bout was coming up, right? This just accelerates it. Like, you can view this positively and say that there's a world in which he has miraculous recovery, a la Kevin Durant. It's not impossible in modern medicine. 9 times out of 10, this probably means it's the last we've seen of prime Damian Lillard in any form. So, yeah, you mentioned the Bucks' future. Like I don't even know where you even begin to discuss the situation they're in. They are so beyond fucked. It is like, we talked earlier in the season about how it's almost miraculous that we see a trio of teams be so fucked this year between the Mavs, the 76ers, and the Suns. It's like a great trifecta of screw.
Cherry on top.
Welcome, number 4, the 4 horsemen of the fucked apocalypse. The Bucks are now in the same exact range. We don't know what's going to happen with Giannis' future in terms of him being able to request a trade or not, if that's going to be his MO. You look around. If you don't have Dame, your second best player is Kyle Kuzma. Your third best player is 38-year-old Brook Lopez.
Yikes.
No vehicles to get better. No future draft assets. So even if they do trade him, they're going to have to hope they get a good haul of young players back because they can't rebuild on their own right. They are firmly screwed in a way that the Suns might be the better outcome of your team's future than the currently is looking for the Bucks.
Yeah, I believe the Milwaukee Bucks have control of they don't have any control of any picks until the year 2031.
God damn.
31, 32 years old around that time.
Damn.
My hair is already gone. My eyebrows might be gone too by that time, bro. It's looking really spooky for them. And then on top of that as well, you mentioned they have no real asset of talented young players whatsoever. But there's outside of Kyle Kuzma, maybe you look at someone like Bobby Portis. Oh my God, could we get like a first round pick for him too? I don't know. It's looking really bleak, and I can't get nothing but sad for the fact that, okay, like cool, like the Milwaukee Bucks are screwed, but there's a player within himself in Damian Lillard he probably had another year, 2, maybe 3 years left of like playing at an elite level, and that's just like squandered away because of this injury. And I know we like to make this joke about Damian Lillard. He's accomplished nothing, beard grown, that's it. But genuinely, he's going to be remembered as one of the most like high octane point guards at his position who just was cursed of being in the most talented point guard era ever.
Yeah, and that's exactly my takeaway. Like, we'll have plenty of time between now and free agency time in which we might expect a Giannis trade request, might expect maybe they proactively to say we got to trade, and whatever the outcome is team-wise that is not going to be good either way, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Damian Lillard is going to be hopefully very appreciated. I fear might be underappreciated because of the things you mentioned. Bro, in 2023, he averaged like 32 points per game on 62% true shooting. He's one of the best guard scorers of all time. And I've never identified Damian Lillard as like one of my favorite players. I've never been like, oh, I'm a Dame stan. But even me, who has like a neutral attachment to him as a player in his like overarching standing in the league, you can't do anything other than respect Damian Lillard. He's such like a positive, likable player, and just like story-wise, the impact he's had on the game and just like presence on these teams that you mentioned didn't have a chance of winning, but he went out there and just like
lit shit on fire, bro. He is like every small market team's dream. Like
the bubble, dude. The moments you remember with him in the bubble, like it just feels so crazy that like in an instant that might just be gone forever.
It's fair. I actually think that Dame is I actually think he's going to age pretty well.
I hope so.
I think so. Part of it is because of what has recently happened with James Harden. And you've seen a lot of people recently being like, yo, James Harden was actually like X, Y, and Z, where in the moment, James probably wasn't appreciated or people didn't look at him in a certain light. Yeah. And now after the Clippers year, and even a lot of the younger fans, they look at James Harden in a certain way. And when you talk about shooting and the best shooters of all time, Steph gets the nod, not only because of his crazy percentage, but because the thing that separates him is he's doing it off the dribble, where a lot of the greatest shooters of all time are catch and shoot guys, right? You're running off of screens, that type of stuff. Dame is also in that category of I can do this off the dribble in a way that it's really in the top tier off the dribble. It's really just Steph and Dame. Yeah. And like obviously Steph, it's like Steph, tier of his own, but even the long range three, like in that sense, it is just Steph and Dame. And so when you start looking back and you start going over everything, there's going to be a contingent of people that are like, yo, this guy was shooting from 35 feet. He was pulling up from the logo just like that. He was averaging 30 points per game. He was just in a bad situation. We have this in every era where people have their guys that were great scorers, didn't have a lot of playoff success, but people still loved them because of the way that they played. Dame is probably going to fall into that category, and the fact that he stayed on one team, and that's probably something that's going to be very antiquated as we move forward, and nobody's really doing that. And he stayed he stayed with the Blazers for a long time. I do think that history is going to remember Dame as like, I know I'm saying it like he died. It's weird, but
this is the worst month of his life. I'm just like,
it's sad. Yeah, it's sad.
Crazy, fuck.
But they'll remember him fondly.
Chad, what's your guys' favorite Damian Lillard moment? We're talking about all this misery, like, oh, fuck, this prime might be over. What do you guys remember? Like, when you think about Damian Lillard and you think about the years in which he was dominating the league as a top 3-point guard in the league, what comes to your brain as, like, the Dame moment?
Bro, I got one. Immediately, my favorite moment of all time from Damian Lillard doesn't even it has to do with him and what he did on the court, but it's the reaction that he brewed out I think it is Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers. Yeah. He was praying that Damian Lillard finally missed a shot. That is my favorite moment. I think it was like 2023 or something like that.
Everybody's saying that's a bad shot. Him sending OKC home. Yeah, iconic. Yeah. The fact that he has that and the one from early in his career against the Rockets and all the ridiculous bubble shit. Like, he really does have a lot of iconic moments for a player that never got it done in the Ohio State or whatever verbiage you want to use to signify doesn't have a championship. He really does have one of the more iconic 2010s of any non-winner, or however you want to phrase it.
And it's stamped on a J. Cole mixtape as well. So it's all that stuff moving forward. That's great. That's great legacy work right there.
Yeah. So yeah, it sucks. So it's just gross. It feels terrible for Damian Lillard. Damn, for the Bucks, like they're not going to win the series. Spoiler alert: we didn't think they're going to win the series whenever we got the news that Damon's coming back. Damn sure don't think they're going to win it without him. They just look like they don't stand a chance talent wise, like we said. Where do you want it? Where does your mind go from here? Like, what does this summer look like? Like, maybe Giannis requests a trade, and obviously that will cause a cascading effect that I think we all think is probably likely. Let's say it doesn't. What the fuck do you do if you're the GM of the Bucks?
It's April 29th, Tuesday. The Milwaukee Bucks are facing off against the Pacers, and they're starting Kevin Porter Jr., Derry Bird, AJ Green. Then there's Gary Trent Jr., Giannis, and Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
This roster is fucking ass.
It's not great.
Worst way imaginable.
It's not great. It's not what you want to see to feel any type of security beyond, like, I wasn't going to say you don't have any security in your future. You don't even have security in your present. Like, they're not even good now. They don't even have a mix of good veterans. Like, none of us liked the Kuzma for Chris Middleton trade when it happened. We were all like, I mean, I get it. You might not get anything out of Chris Middleton. That sucks, right? That maybe the reality is he can't give you anything at this stage of his career. I would rather deal with these maybe side effects of rolling that dice again and hoping we can get good Chris Middleton for a playoff run than the just non-existent fucking ceiling of Kyle Kuzma being your go-to third option. That never made sense to us. Bucks fans came up here and yelled at us saying it made sense. We need to get athletic, make it so Giannis can play center, blah, 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 blah. It was always bullshit. It always did not make sense in terms of Kuzma being the pivot guy. How do you feel now? Your one move you had was getting off of your franchise legend, Chris Middleton, best Giannis teammate of all time, and you're left with this. You could name all the players on the Bucks roster and how good you feel about them for the future. Kuzma's going to be like 7th on that goddamn list.
I don't care. If I'm the Bucks GM, I don't care what Giannis says. You're getting traded.
Wow.
like in terms of me keeping my job or me being somewhat happy, there's two ways out of this. You either trade Giannis or you go and you sign Thanasis again and you go and you sign Kostas and you sign all his brothers to make sure that even if we suck on the basketball floor, he can be cool in the facility every single day, because for all the reasons that you guys said, they have no way out. And it's the same. The Suns are in the same predicament where the only way out is by tearing it down to the ground and trading all of your players. And the only asset that you have is Giannis. You may like Brook is super old and isn't going to give you a great haul. Kuzma, if he played well, maybe you could have flipped him, but if he played well, then you would have wanted to keep him. Brother. So it really is just Giannis at this point. You have to make sure that you don't go ahead and you don't pull a Nico Harrison. And you don't just offer him to one team. You tell the entire league.
I don't think you can do that.
Whether or not you make it public or not, you need to call everybody in the league. You need to call everybody in FIBA and other leagues and say Giannis is available for trade. I need to know everything that you are able to offer me, because if and when he decides to ask for the trade, you need to be ready.
I'm on the complete opposite end of you. Simply because they don't own control of their own picks until 2031. Yeah. If you completely tank and nuke your team, and if you try to be somewhat like fake mediocre for the next 6 years or whatever, that's not productive whatsoever. What is productive in my mind is staying home, having Giannis there, and trying your best to get it out the mud, be a 40, 42, 3-1 team or whatever, and just be studied in history. Because if you go ahead and trade away Giannis, you're doing nothing but benefiting, and you're committing to a rebuild. You're doing nothing but benefiting teams like the New Orleans Pelicans, I believe, who have their pick, and also the Portland Trailblazers as well. Yeah. Like, you gain nothing from that other than at least we're off of Giannis, and we have, I don't know, some random young player with somewhat potential like Anthony Simons or whatever the case. Yeah,
it's a difficult situation. You can't just tear it down and do that kind of rebuild, but it's also a sunk cost to some degree. Oh, well, the one thing hanging over all this is Giannis is probably just going to request a trade, right? Yeah, we know he talks a lot about how loyal he is and how much that means to him, clearly. I've never seen a situation that will test a motherfucker's loyalty quite like this fucking 2025 Bucks roster. I don't think he's inhuman. I don't think he has robotic levels of loyalty. I think he will succumb to the elements that every single star around the league ever, besides Dirk and Steph, and Kobe fucking Bryant have succumbed to when they see there is an inability to win around you entirely, and they know they're an MVP level player. They know the way they'll be talked about if they go in the first round every year.
Yeah, Kobe's so fake.
Kobe went on national TV and asked for a trade.
Yeah, well, not even Kobe. The same elements that apply to everybody will apply to him.
Mm-hmm.
He will look in the mirror and he will have some decisions to make. I think he probably will come to the conclusion that it does not make sense to stay here. Even if he doesn't, you can keep him like you said. There's no easy out like there was for, say, the Hawks. If they want to get rid of Trey and they can say, the Spurs, you have our pick. You need a point guard. It's a direct swap. Everybody wins, right? They don't have that easy out. I don't think the Trailblazers want Giannis. Or maybe they will. Who knows? I guess it's not impossible. But it doesn't make like automatic sense in your head that that's a clear swap, get our future back. But man, if you can get him for a core of a trade package with some young players, you might be better off. I don't know. Like, there's the politics of it. You don't want to get rid of your franchise legend. You might be better off getting a trade package that involves a Reed Shepherd and a Cam Whitmore and whatever else it gets from that. Maybe it's a Mint Thompson. It's fucking Giannis, so it's not impossible. You might be better off getting your young core via Giannis trade and doing the best you goddamn can to rebuild and gain picks otherwise and do a like 2010s Brooklyn Nets style rebuild.
So the team that we'd be looking at is the New Orleans Pelicans because they own
Zion
they own the
Williamson, let's
swap.
go.
They own the swap between 2025, 2026, and 2027. Zion, welcome to the Milwaukee Bucks, I guess.
Whatever happens, they're not in a good situation whatsoever. Like, it's a lose-lose, it seems like, barring a just like ridiculous amount of luck and they somehow find a way to turn it around, which isn't impossible, I guess. But man, overall, you feel terrible for Dame, terrible for Bucks fans. I guess bad for Giannis too, because he clearly wants to stay, but it's going to be very, very hard for him to maintain that. I wish there was a positive spin for anybody, but there's not.
I mean, shout out to the Indiana Pacers. You guys, once again, are winning a playoff series. Good for you guys. It had been a while since they had been to the second round, and now they're going to be in the second round for back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, man.
Just good for them.
And that concludes our Bucks talk. Chad, I see you guys saying the Bucks are currently up 13-3. I do not care. If you think they're coming back from down 3-1, if that happens, give Giannis a top 10 player of all time
Stamp.